You ever work your tail off for something only to have someone waltz in and try to take it from you? That was me. My name's Jake Mercer. And for 20 years, I fixed up yachts for the kind of people who thought port was just a fancy wine. Saved every dime. Skipped vacations. And finally bought my dream, 5 acres of lakefront heaven. Complete with a little dock. An old cabin. And best of all, no neighbors. No rules. And absolutely no HOA. I made that very clear to my realtor. I wanted land, water access, and freedom. No homeowners association nonsense. I'd heard the horror stories people find for planting the wrong flowers or hanging wind chimes. Nope, not me. When I found this place, a private sale from a retired couple, I double-checked every document. Triple-checked. Actually, even hired my own surveyor to confirm I was outside any HOA borders. And I was. Or so I thought. 6 months of bliss went by. I was grilling, restoring an old sailboat, and sleeping to the sound of wind and frogs. Then one day, I opened my mailbox to find this official-looking envelope. Inside was a letter saying my property had been annexed by the Briar Hills Lakeside Homeowners Association. Effective immediately. I owed them $1, $500 a month for community upkeep. I laughed. Must be a scam. But the letter was real. Legal headers. Signatures. Even a phone number. I called, thinking it was some mistake. That's when I met Clarissa Doyle, the HOA president. Imagine a Bond villain in pearls. She told me the board had unanimously voted to expand their territory under an architectural continuity clause. You can't just vote to take my land. I said, "Oh, but we did." She replied, cool as ice. Your rustic home doesn't align with the neighborhood aesthetic, and your consent isn't required under our policy update. Policy update? They were rewriting imaginary laws. And when I told her no way, she warned me, non-compliance will lead to consequences. The next morning, I drove to the county records office. The clerk confirmed my land was not in the HOA, but there was a new digital overlay recently added by a private firm. Not official, not legal, just there. It looked like Clarissa and her cronies were faking expansions to rope in properties and jack up dues. A quiet land grab. I started documenting everything: deeds, surveys, old maps. Figured once they saw I knew my stuff, they'd back off. But nope. They escalated. 2 days later, 2 guys in black vests marked HOA enforcement pulled up in a matte black SUV and parked right on my grass. One had a buzz cut and the build of a linebacker. The other had a clipboard and the attitude of a DMV reject. You Jake Mercer? Buzzcut asked. Depends who's asking. I said, already annoyed. You owe $9,000 in dues and late fees. We're here to advise you on next steps, including property forfeiture. I laughed. You're trespassing. Get off my land. Clipboard started quoting from some made-up charter. I ripped the paper in half. That's when Buzzcut lunged. Tried to shove me. Big mistake. I dodged, pivoted, and body-checked him into the mud by my truck. Clipboard guy backed up, muttering about calling the sheriff. I told him to go ahead. I'd love for real law enforcement to see this circus. Just as they were retreating, a white Lexus pulled up. Out stepped Clarissa in full power suit mode, slow clapping like she just watched a Broadway show. Impressive, she said, but juvenile. You'll be hearing from our attorneys. And you'll be hearing from mine. I shot back. This isn't an HOA. It's a racket. That night, I stayed up researching. Found out I wasn't the only target. 8 other homeowners had received similar letters. One elderly widow had even paid out of fear. Most were too scared to fight. Clarissa had friends in county offices, people who turned a blind eye. The HOA was just a front for a land control scheme boosting property values for developers and insiders. That was my breaking point. I got a lawyer. We filed a civil lawsuit, fraud, trespassing, intimidation, conspiracy. We subpoenaed records, hired independent surveyors, and compiled a mountain of evidence. Security footage, fake documents, even a voice recording of Clarissa bragging about boxing in the lake guy. When the case hit court, it became local news. Me, the boat mechanic, versus the power-hungry HOA queen. Neighbors testified. Surveyors confirmed. Clarissa's team fumbled. Her argument? It was all a misunderstanding. The judge didn't buy it. The jury ruled in our favor. $2. $5 million in damages. HOA dissolved. Clarissa personally liable. As the bailiff cuffed her in court, she hissed at me. You ruined everything. I smiled. No. Clarissa, I just tore down your fantasy. The next morning, I took a crowbar to the illegal steel fence they built on my drive. Bolt by bolt. I ripped it down, replaced it with a wooden sign that read, Private property. Trespassers will be mocked. That weekend, I threw a barbecue for the whole neighborhood. Even the silent folks showed up. We drank, laughed, and toasted to freedom. Rodney retired Navy, who once told me to back off, brought ribs. Mrs. Ellis danced with her grandkids. It was the first time in months we felt like a community. Clarissa? She lost her house, her car, and her fake salary. Last I heard, she's living above a dry cleaner and banned from forming any HOA ever again. So yeah, I bought this land for peace and quiet. Didn't expect a war, but sometimes, when someone tries to fence you in, you gotta remind them what freedom really means. Let me know in the comments, have you ever dealt with an HOA gone rogue? Or seen petty power trips disguised as community rules? I want to hear your stories. And remember, never let anyone build a fence around your freedom, unless it's got your name on it.